Don't Say Gay amendment will out Florida's LGBTQ plus students even if dangerous for them. Opponents of Florida's Don't Say Gay bill were worried that a new amendment introduced by Representative, you know him, Joe Harding, could put students in danger. The amendment required schools to disclose any personal information that students shared with faculty within 6 weeks. While the amendment stated that, quote, the plan must facilitate disclosure between the student and parent through an open dialogue in a safe and supportive and judgment-free environment that respects the parent-child relationship and protects the mental, emotional, and physical well-being of the student. Sounds like gaslighting to me. Critics fear that revealing students' gender or sexual concerns to unaccepting parents could put the children in danger. Representative Harding, at moments before we went on the air this evening, pulled the amendment before the House voted on the bill earlier this afternoon.
Ooh, this is so dangerous. And I want to know.
Oh, wait, I've got to interrupt you. You're 19. Are you allowed to talk about LGBT or anything to do with sexual? Is this a violation of any of our rules?
Nah, he's an adult technically.
Oh,
so
okay.
I
Technically, you're an adult. Okay.
In
Sorry,
theory, maybe not in practice.
Right.
But I think what's really dangerous is this. The original bill had an exception for disclosing this information that said that if someone suspects that disclosing that information could result in abuse or abandonment or neglect, they're allowed to withhold it. This amendment basically said, yeah, you can withhold this information if you think that there's going to be abuse, but then you still have to disclose it within 6 weeks. I don't really know what that 6 weeks is supposed to do if they've already established that it is going to cause harm to a child.
It's supposed to make you change your mind, Max.
Exactly.
Right.
Of course.
Push you back in the closet.
Of course.
So you can spend 6 weeks being completely stressed because you know that something's coming down the pike and you don't know how to handle it.
Saboni, you run one of the best youth programs in South Florida for LGBTQ. Where are you in terms of what you've been watching for the last couple of months here on this Don't Say Gay bill and the reaction of students, LGBTQ students?
Well, where am I at? Again, I want to move. I want to get out of here. I'm kidding. But what I've noticed with the students is that a lot of them are very much oblivious. They have no idea that this is happening or that this law is going to impact them and their daily lives. The few that do know are, of course, they're speaking up, they are speaking out, and they are not going to be silent, which I'm very happy about. But it does worry me that this is something that I know is going to impact the youth that I work with, and that I'm going to see most likely a high rise in depression and anxiety, and also an issue with them being able to even connect to services like SunServe, because outside of being in the home, the next place that they are at for a large portion of the day is in schools. And schools provide additional resources. They provide connection to places like SunServe and other organizations that provide free mental health and case management service. And if these kids are going to be forced to disclose to parents, which yes, consent is needed to provide services, at the same time, sometimes you just need to talk it out. Like, is it safe for me to even say this to my parents? This law is going to impact them and make it that they're not even able to do that.
I'm curious, with your expertise with us at Queer News Tonight this evening, are you concerned about potential mental health and other related risks for LGBT youth, even to the point of what the Trevor Project is talking about extensively about Florida, that they're concerned about suicide?
100%. It is not always safe for a young person to come out. That's just true. We may think that we know what a person's home situation is like, but we don't. We really don't. And sometimes there can be everything's okay, and that's in public, but then the private face is very different, and it can be harmful. And on top of that, coming out, I'm like, we've all had the coming out process that we've had to deal with. It is very personal. It is very individual. You can't force someone out of the closet. I mean, I'm just gonna disclose my own. I was forced out of the closet by my parents. One parent outed me to the other parent, and then the other parent outed me to my stepfamily, and it was very traumatic. I did not want to do it. It was something that upset me very much. There were tears, there were anger, there was a lot of anxiety going on in that moment, and I was a teenager with no additional support. Thank God I had people at school that I could go to. I could talk to my teammates. If I needed to, I had a GSA advisor who, while not queer, was very supportive. So there was an additional support system outside of the home, and not saying that I did not have support in the home, I did have them, but it's
What
an
if you
experience.
didn't? And Sabrina, another opportunity that you allow me to explore. Harding's amendment here, when you hear that he basically is saying, well, even if it's dangerous, we'll suspend it, but after 6 weeks, you still have to out the LGBT.
It's ridiculous.
What did you think about that when you see there's an acknowledgement that we really don't, at the end of the day, care about the consequences on the child?
Honestly, it's disgusting. It is honestly very disgusting to me. The fact that many of the bills that are being pushed that are against LGBT individuals have no true basis to them. Even if I'm not mistaken, DeSantis himself said, oh, there's not a lot of youth being told that they need to hide their gender. Like, it's a small portion, I'm assuming. If you don't know, you don't have facts, why are you going through with this? All you're going to do is hurt children, but you're trying to protect children. That is such a it's a contradiction.
I think one of the things also to consider is that at that age, you're accusing somebody of something that they may not have dealt with yet themselves, but are now being labeled. And what is that? How does that play in? They haven't gotten a chance to grow into who they are going to be, and they're at that point of confusion and not understanding, and they don't have the safe space anymore at school, as some of these organizations might have to go by the wayside.
You know, Glenn, that's a great point, and I want to turn that point to Max. Max, I read all about you going to Tallahassee and lobbying in support of the rejection of this and related bills. Tell us what that experience was like. You're 19 years old, you're in Tallahassee, you're talking to these people that are trying to accomplish this. What was your experience like?
Yeah, so I went up to Tallahassee with State School South Florida, AHF, and it was my first time actually lobbying or directly speaking with legislators. And it was a very unique experience, being able to see just how sort of horrendous some of these people can be. And to be fair, we spoke with a lot of Democratic legislators who were very, very sort of in our side of the court, and really opposed to this bill and really in support of these discussions in schools. But when we are talking, we spoke with the actual aide of Representative Harding and Senator Baxley, who's the sponsor of the Senate.
It's called the Gang
bill.
of Two, by the way, Harding and Baxley.
Right, and it was so odd to see just how out of touch these people are. State School South Florida, they posted a picture actually of us speaking with the aide, and said with a caption basically talking about us discussing our opposition to the bill with Representative Harding's aide. He actually commented on it, and he said, Representative Harding here, did you politely tell the students that Don't Say Gay is not the name of the bill, and calling it that is an insult to gay folks? As if a straight
Were
man.
you insulted? Yeah.
As if
The tone is a little deaf there.
right, telling a bunch of gay children what is an insult to gay children was very interesting.
Yeah.
He did thankfully get a lot of egg on his face in response to that. I just wish that egg on his face translated to the bill not passing.
I'm curious, going to Tallahassee, thank you very much on behalf of certainly the South Florida community and going to Tallahassee. Was it with what you're watching and the advocacy that you did on behalf of yourself and PRISM, was it something that you thought worthwhile? Tell us about that.
I think that, an issue here is that a lot of these happen on party lines, and that's something that's a very real reality in 2022, and a very unfortunate reality in 2022. But we did hear, through the grapevine, some people who are actually on the fence now because of some of the talks that we had, and at a bare minimum, to be able to see, even if this bill were to pass and we got, we had in some way, shape, or form bipartisan opposition, that shows that there is, that common sense tells you that this really is harmful and this really is detrimental.
Well, we've spent quite a sizable amount of time on this. This issue is super important. It is absolutely critically super important. It's why it's getting national and international headlines. We're so lucky, Ty and Glenn and I are so lucky to have Saborni and Max here tonight. One point that I would make before we move on to our next story tonight in Queer News Tonight is the most dangerous thing about this bill is if LGBT doesn't think it's important. It's very concerning to me of what you said, that this may be escaping attention, and the people that are doing this, the two that we have just mentioned, we're reporting at this hour that the amendments have basically all been defeated. There's a couple that are still in multiple reading. We expect on Thursday that the bill is going to be voted on. Likely, it's going to be passed. I'm encouraged that maybe some are sitting on the fence and there's a possibility of it being stopped, but likely it will not be. And this amendment about outing children after 6 weeks, regardless of the consequences on them, is the example of why this bill is so dangerous, because it is what is called a beachhead. They have codified law by passing Don't Say Gay, and in all disrespect to the comment that was made, it is exactly what this is, and it is not disrespectful to the gay community because it's exactly what's intended. And where it will get terrible is what this amendment was designed to do, which is let's add to it and let's add a little more. And now we have a beachhead, and let's expand the beach 100 yards and then a quarter mile and then a mile. And then that's when this bill gets really.
And I do want to just make one thing very clear. The people, I watched the hearing when it went past in its last House committee. The people in support of this bill were saying absolutely vile things about LGBT people, and it made it very clear that the proponents of this bill, they don't want the right to know if their child is trans or gay. They want the right to be able to stop their child from being trans or gay, and that is the real danger here.
That's just sad.
Incredible.
As we move on, what interests me was that youth are not paying attention, and then even at the House level, they're not listening either. They tune out when you're speaking. They don't show up at session, and so no one is listening on either side, and these people get to push their agenda through. So, just very frustrating.
And
anyway,
and one last thought: if you know this better than anyone at this table. And Max too, in what he does at PRISM. If we don't stand up and advocate for our LGBT youth, my goodness, who's going to do that?
Exactly.
right.
This is so incredibly important, incredibly important.
Yeah. All right.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus